that you need to keep building your brand. You need to keep staying in the field. If you're not in the field, you're not playing the game, right? You can't play a game sitting outside of the fence. So
Right.
you have to be in the game, in the field, and keep playing your hockey. I feel, and I'm very open to share this with you as well as the audience that you have. You are in a different country. You have to reinvent yourself. If you do not invest into reinventing yourselves, you may still reach somewhere, but the journey would be a little longer.
Yep.
Personal. Always talk to your kids in Urdu or whatever language you speak at home. Always encourage them. Professional. Play on the front foot. You're smarter than a lot of people out there. So don't undervalue yourself.
You're listening to the East Meets West Pakistani Professional Journeys podcast, released bi-weekly every Sunday at 5 p.m. on YouTube, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and Apple iTunes. Welcome to the East Meets West Pakistani Professional Journeys podcast. Today we have Hammad Siddiqui. Hammad completed his education from Karachi University, completed his master's degree in economics. He worked as the head of trade and investments at the UK Trade Investments and a country program director at Centre for International Private Enterprise. He's currently the founder and executive director at Canada Startup Association and a LinkedIn coach at Career Guru. It's a pleasure having you on.
Thank you very much for inviting me. It's a pleasure.
So we can kick things off by, do you mind sharing your time or experience in Pakistan?
Yeah, so most of my life I actually spent in Pakistan. So if I start talking every bit and detail, that would probably eat up your time. But frankly speaking, I worked in both of my jobs were basically looking after things that can be done in the country. So first job was of course investment promotion in Pakistan, trade promotion in the UK, helping Pakistani companies export more to the UK, and also helping British companies do more investment in Pakistan. That's something that went on for almost 17 years. In the process, I was also had the honor to work as the official press officer for Queen Elizabeth II during her visit to Pakistan in 97. There were so many things that were part of that journey with the British government. In 2006, I joined, it's an economic think tank affiliated with the US Chamber of Commerce, Center for International Private Enterprise. And that program for first 3, 4 years were purely focused on Pakistan and helping Pakistan grow economically, working with chambers and associations, young entrepreneurs, women entrepreneurs. But then my role expanded to the region. So I actually worked with them in 12 different countries doing almost the same things. So yeah, all in all, amazing. That's home. First home, I would say now. And in 2000, so I actually took immigration in the year 2000. My first visit to US, UK, yes, so to Canada was in 1993, 92, 93, somewhere around that time. And I fell in love with this country. So I thought if I have to make a choice, Canada would be my choice. In year 2000, we took immigration, but I didn't live here for long. Again, Pakistan, the job and the growth that I was getting there. We kept like shuffling between the two countries, but I came back like to settle permanently to 2019.
Okay. And did you have any challenges as you were moving to Canada? I know it's especially it was like close to COVID at that point, right? As well.
Yeah, COVID started somewhere around
Yeah.
early 2020.
Yeah.
And we had the close down in around April, yeah, April, May 2020. So for me, moving was just packing up and taking a flight to Canada because I already have a family. My brother, my sister, my mother, they all live in Canada. So for us is landing here and driving home and eating home cooked biryani was, so I don't think a lot of people get that kind of opportunity. But for me, it was a simple move literally from one city to another good city. It only took me 14 hours to travel here. That's about it.
Got you. And I know that you first started your career like in the corporate slash like a lot of the investments and so on. When did you get introduced to like entrepreneurship?
I think I'm someone who always wanted to challenge myself.
Yep.
So once I achieved something, I would always think, okay, what next? What else can I do? And like mentoring and coaching had always been in my gene, I would say. Without knowing that I would actually make this as my business ever, I was coaching and mentoring people. Like at the British government at that point in time, with Center for International Private Enterprise, it was more intensified because I now had the budget to spend on it. I started a program in Pakistan, Global Entrepreneurship Week, which happens globally. Nobody knew about it in Pakistan 12 to 14, 15 years ago. And that program actually helped me connect with a lot of entrepreneurs in across Pakistan, literally. I first ever brought together 5 incubators in Islam to share what they have to share. They could probably leverage their skills, the skills of the incubatees in those incubators. So I did a lot of work in that space, and it really excited me. And eventually, when I wanted to start my own business in 2020, I had pretty decent knowledge of how challenging it would be for a solopreneur to begin the process. And it was right at the beginning of COVID too. So yeah, so that's pretty much what it is.
But I assume it did you leverage your old connections? Because usually the first few years are the most challenging, I find, or I've heard from a lot of people who first start off in either entrepreneurship or any consulting or so on, or career coaching and so on. So, how did you get through those first few years and progress to where you are now?
I've completed 4 years now, and I can tell you one thing: it will never be easy. It will
Yeah.
always be challenging. When I started, the challenges were different. When I scaled, challenges became different. So, throughout your journey, it's an infinite game. I mean, I'm sure a lot of our audience would know the difference between the finite game and infinite game. But life is an infinite game, right? So it keeps changing. If it does not evolve, it does not change, there's no excitement
Yep.
in it. So for me, I think it was an excitement, the challenges coming, and I was dealing with a challenge. It's one of the key things that humans are gifted with to figure out and to build their path to the next stage. So your question originally, did I leverage my original connections? No, I did not, because those were all economists most of the time. I was an economist, that was my space. I had about 5,000 odd LinkedIn followers. I had bigger following on, but that was like pretty much Pakistani dominated. It still is Pakistani dominated on Facebook. So my original thinking was that I would actually help immigrants coming to Canada to understand how they can leverage the power of LinkedIn in reinventing themselves. So that was like different audience, different strategy. The real growth in LinkedIn space started happening in 2020, late 2020 during COVID, when everybody jumped onto LinkedIn. And I was an early adopter, so that was kind of a little advantage I had. But still, LinkedIn was very different, even in 2020 to what it is now. So yeah, challenges, yes. The biggest challenge is, where is your target audience? How do you relate to them? How do you provide value? How do you stay consistent in your approach? How do you change things as things change? Productization, building your product, adding more value to your product, pricing, everything that we learn in business management is applicable to any, even a solopreneurship business too.
Yeah. Now, I really like one of your posts. Like you basically said that doing short videos, 60-second videos, picking a topic, LinkedIn audio series, 10 posts daily, reaching out to small influencers and so on to engage with them. And yeah, just focusing on a region, which you mentioned, and collaborating. So I think so that like in terms of generating leads, I think so that's really it's a good summary of how lead generations works.
It has to be organic. Like I don't use, okay, at my age, I'm probably, some people say, okay, you should really be doing this and this as well. I think I'm quite happy in doing whatever I'm doing. Like I don't use LinkedIn Sales Navigator, which means I don't reach out to people. My focus is, if I'm on LinkedIn and if I am not leveraging the power of LinkedIn so that people reach out to me, then I am not doing business the right way. That's my philosophy. The leads have to be organic, and organic leads are free. Something we need to understand, because client acquisition or lead acquisition is a big cost otherwise. So far on LinkedIn, I have not spent a single cent in generating leads, but most of my corporate level leads, or like people like you connecting with me, happens through LinkedIn. because ultimately that's my objective. And if I'm unable to do it, I will never be able to coach my people, my clients, how they can leverage LinkedIn. So I don't use any lead generation tool for LinkedIn.
Okay. And I guess we're going to switch to the portion of just advice for people who are using LinkedIn. What do you find, like from your experience, the biggest mistake immigrants do when using LinkedIn when they're looking for roles?
I think the core to this is the inability to understand the real power of LinkedIn. I know a lot of people only create their profiles when they land here, when they're told that you have to have a LinkedIn profile. People who had LinkedIn profiles from back home, wherever they're coming from, they never bothered about LinkedIn, right? To create a profile and just stays there dormant. So I think the focus has to be how LinkedIn can really help them. And never use LinkedIn only as a job search because that's only maybe you're underutilizing LinkedIn by 90% of its capabilities. If you're just focusing on, I should really be applying for jobs, go in the search bar, search for jobs, apply. It, it may work, but it doesn't work because what I think most of us experience as well, job search is just one thing that you need to do. You can do that on Indeed and other platforms as well. LinkedIn is a tool that recruiters also use. So when they log into LinkedIn, they use a tool called LinkedIn Recruiter, and they use LinkedIn Recruiter to find candidates. Now, if your profile is not optimized and you are not actively using LinkedIn, which means that you're not consistently targeted posting, you're not consistently building your network, you're only trying to send invites to recruiters, uh, and there are plenty of things that would come under that. LinkedIn is never going to help. It's AI behind the whole system behind LinkedIn is created to build relevance. Why I get every morning when I log in, I get maybe about 20, 30 job leads into my feed. I don't
Yeah.
apply for jobs, but if I can get it, anybody can get those leads. If you are on LinkedIn and you're not seeing the feed, which means that you are actually missing out on hidden job market, which according to LinkedIn is bigger than the job market, which is available on LinkedIn's portal.
Yeah.
And what happens on LinkedIn hidden job market? So if I'm looking for someone, I'm looking for an SEO expert, for instance, to work on my project. And make a post to say, this is my project. I'm looking for an SEO expert. And that SEO expert doesn't know how to find that particular post. Missed an opportunity, right? And there
Yeah.
are plenty of such opportunities available on LinkedIn across the globe. So again, going back to the same point, never use LinkedIn only as a job search portal. Use it as an opportunity platform.
So, in terms of pretend a person is they might be set or they already got their job, do you think LinkedIn is still useful in that
Oh
sense that
yes.
you still
Yeah,
okay?
absolutely.
And
Why question is why you get a job, what is the guarantee that you would continue in that job?
okay, yeah,
Right? Which means that you need to keep building your brand. You need to keep staying in the field. If you're not in the field, you're not playing the game, right? You can't
yeah,
play a game sitting outside of the fence. So
right.
if you have to be in the game, in the field, and keep playing your hockey.
So, in terms of what people, so are you saying just like general posts, or I guess there's
Well,
specific like interests that they would just be more commenting towards on a weekly basis?
right. Random does not work
Okay,
anywhere in the world, right?
yeah,
So it does not work on LinkedIn as well, which means that you have to be very strategic in your content, the way you're connecting with people. And one of the bigger thing in this whole space comes when people don't comment. Commenting is a currency on LinkedIn. Because see, if somebody comments on my post, uh, it could be a conversation starter, right? I got connected with some amazing people and I learned from them and they're part of my first degree network. People would dream of connecting with them. I recently interviewed. So I do also do some interviews, but those interviews are for my students and my clients only. I don't put those interviews on YouTube. Ashley, who is the founder of EU Hubs UK and the co-author of one of the best-selling Unfair Advantage, I got connected with him, and he's he's a rich person. His wealth is big, and he actually agreed to speak to me for 45 minutes, and we picked up on a few things. He started his entrepreneurial journey at the age of 19. initially e-commerce. How did he do this whole process?
Yeah.
And some these kind of people connected with me because I'm actually putting out thought-provoking content. That's my target. So you have to be professionally relevant in what kind of content you're putting out and also commenting on relevant posts. Because ultimately, as I said, what message are we giving to LinkedIn is that this is what we are interested in, and we would like to connect with people of this kind. And with about 2 to 3 months of strategic work, LinkedIn starts showing us things that we are interested in. But it takes about at least 60 days of consistent work.
Okay. And in terms of advice for Pakistani immigrants moving in, like I know you talked about several areas. Do you find any key advices as they're moving in when it relates to LinkedIn? Solid, like something to just take away for sure.
Yeah. So, as I said, take it seriously. I think I cannot give anything more than this at this point. You see what happens. I'm invited to speak at various events, Indians, Pakistanis, like mostly South Asians. What I feel, and I'm very open to share this with you as well as the audience that you have, you are in a different country. You have to reinvent yourself. If you do not invest into reinventing yourselves, you may still reach somewhere, but the journey would be a little longer. In terms of LinkedIn, if you have one, if you don't have one, of course, create one. Pakistani audience, what happens? They come in these sessions, they try to learn something, but they never implement. And the reason is very simple. When you come to Canada, even a Starbucks coffee becomes very expensive, right? Because that
Yeah.
$6 is very expensive. So you start converting every Pakistani rupee into your dollar and you don't do things. But that doesn't work this way. When you've come to a new country, you have to do things the way things are done here. So living in your own community is great. Buying from a desi shop is great. Sending a school to a Islamic kid to Islamic school is probably the greatest thing you could do. But if you're not investing onto your own selves in your own growth, LinkedIn is just one little piece that you need to really think of. But think about it. When I came back, I was 54. At that age, working in Pakistan, you're already behind 2 decades. So you have to upskill and reskill yourself.
Yeah.
And they can. And networking outside your community and networking not on Halwa Puri and Nihari, non Nihari events is better networking. If you're meeting the same audience all the time, that's not network. Be more harsher than this, but this is what the reality is.
And then in terms of actually messaging people directly, like when you're looking for a
Never do that.
job.
Do
Oh,
that.
okay.
Yeah.
That's this is the
Never
first
do
time I'm
that.
hearing that. That's interesting.
No, no, never.
Even just for a coffee chat or anything, or
Never ever do that. You have to build that relationship first. Why would I connect with you? Why would I connect? Why would I give my time to you? Time is probably the most precious thing we have now, right? You need to build some relationship. People don't build relationship. I get messages said, "Here's my CV. Please help me find a job." No, who you
right.
are.
Exactly.
But if there's a relationship, if somebody is commenting on my post, somebody is trying to engage with me, that's building relationship.
Right.
And once you have that relationship, somewhat, then of course you can ask for some help. Send out for 500 such notes. I'll actually challenge everyone. Send out 500 notes. First of all, you cannot because LinkedIn restricts you.
Yeah.
You have to buy a premium. But if you're building your relationship before and you understand exactly how LinkedIn works, then your chances of getting a coffee chat is much more easier. And also, I would say here again, I say things in a very different perspective. So I create a different perspective. It's the same kind of people who are out there for coffee chats.
Yeah.
Same people. Now, the benefit of talking to same people, they get more benefit because they get different perspective, but the receiver would not get the same perspective. So what you need to do is to find people who are relevant to you. I again keep using the word relevant. So for instance, my clients, some of my clients, most of my clients come from Gulf or like Middle East. I try to connect with them with people who are relevant to them. So if a banker is connecting to a banker, it's more relevant, right? If
Yeah.
a lawyer is coming in, connecting to a lawyer, a pharmacist coming in, connecting to a pharmacist, is better. It's probably the most advisable thing. Don't go to generic. There's so many generic events going around, networking events like webinars, very generic. You can go, I can guarantee you won't learn anything.
Yeah.
You learn only when you speak the same language, which means that if you are an engineer, that's where the relevance starts. Speak to an engineer.
In terms of skills and habits that you've developed through your time since in Pakistan all the way to Canada, what do you feel are like some of the key habits you've developed that shaped you to be as successful as you are today?
So I'll talk about this word called success, right? Success is subjective, very subjective, right? Maybe I feel I am successful. A lot of other people think is not that successful, right? So you have to define what success means to you. Right?
Yeah.
Maybe for someone buying a big car is success. For me, no, it is not. For me, paying less interest or no interest is success because I'm saving money on interest. And I'm also saving as a faithful person to Islam. I'm not paying interest, which is haram. My success definition of success will be different, will definitely be different from your or somebody else's definition of success. That's one thing. Habits. I have so many bad habits. So I shall talk about the bad
That's
habits.
everyone. That's
Right. So I think consistency and the ability to figure out and maybe being out there and be seen are some of the things that I think are the best uh, saviors, I would say, for anyone, whether somebody is looking for a job or trying to build a solopreneurship career. These are a few things that we need to really practice, I would say.
okay. I really like how you started off the question of habits to in terms of defining success because I feel, especially in the type of environment we live in, it's very, if you don't have a defined meaning of what that is, then you're just going to keep going towards something and not, you're just going to keep working nonstop and you're never going to be satisfied. So it's really good in terms of how you started off. So, in terms of building further, so how would you define success personally and professionally? You briefly mentioned that at the very beginning, but do you mind would you like to elaborate a
Sure.
little bit more? Like
Right. So for me, I think success is very different. For me, it's still because I started a business and I challenged myself. And believe me, it was a very difficult challenge. Probably one of the riskiest things that I did in my life was to start something of my own without knowing exactly how business is done. Coaching and mentoring something different, but actually building a business is a very different ball game altogether. So I think if I continue with the same pace, things will keep unfolding. So for me, I thought that I would only coach people in how they should use LinkedIn, but then I went into online courses. The first one was somebody reached out to me, said, okay, we have got, it's again, Canadian based Pakistani a platform. They teach emerging technology to their students across the globe. And they said, we have everything available, which people learn from. And the challenge is that still they struggle in finding job opportunities. So if you could bring in your LinkedIn course to us and help people learn how they can they can leverage LinkedIn for finding jobs, that would be great. It's been almost more than 2 years since I created that first course. Oh yeah, maybe 3 years now. Yes, 3 years when I created my first course. And I did not know how to create an online course. I didn't have any gadgets, I would say, because I was just, but I created it.
yeah,
I used Zoom recording and because I had been coaching and mentoring previously, I knew the pedagogy. I knew how do you give the best learning experience. I think I'm pretty good in articulating things and giving experiences. So used everything and created that program. And that program became the foundation for me creating more programs. So I was reached out by one of my mentees. He's one of the top 10 supply chain influencers in the world, Dr. Mudassir Ahmad. Mudassir asked me, Ahmad, he calls me Ahmad Bhai. Ahmad Bhai, can you please create a course for specific to supply chain professional? So a LinkedIn course for supply chain professional, something I'm sure a lot of people have never heard of, like
yeah,
LinkedIn related to a specific industry.
Right.
And so that actually made me think. And I really worked on the structure of the program and I created one. So all those online courses and my books, so many digital products that I developed and the content had started resulting me getting leads from individuals who are interested in personal branding. They're not looking for a job, they're already accomplished people, but they struggle in personal branding. And I was reached out by some smaller companies, not big companies, to manage their content, for instance. And all that started happening. But my original thought was something different, right? So a lot of people don't even start. They have skill, they have talent, but they don't start. I started. And then I kept improving upon and kept working on leads. Another very important point is that I started saying no to people. Because if I can't do anything, like if I don't have the expertise in doing something, I would say no. I would not take that because of money coming in. I And why did I do that? See, as a content writer, when you become an expert content writer, you can write literally anything. It becomes very easy. It's like an automobile mechanic, a car mechanic. A car mechanic can fix a Toyota, a Honda, Nissan, Mercedes, Porsche, any kind of a car because he understands how to fix it. Same thing with content writers. So I started getting requests for resume writing, and I would take because it's quite lucrative. I would take that. And a lot of these people are like very senior level, CFO, CEO level people. I would take it. And then I would struggle because I don't like it. I don't like writing resumes, but I was getting paid. So I would take it. And then I start saying, oh no, stop. I would not do anything that I don't like doing. So I stopped taking resume. If somebody even reaches out to me, I refer that person to people in my network. Build on what you really love doing.
Awesome. So I guess we can wrap up the interview by just in terms of like when you're living in the West, like some of the cultural traits can get diluted or forgotten. From personally, which traits, like Pakistani traits, do you think one should maintain as they're progressing in the West? This could be personal, it could be professional. You could take any way with this.
So I would discuss both, one personal and one professional.
Yep.
Personal, always talk to your kids in Urdu or whatever language you speak at home.
Mhm.
Always encourage them. Professional, play on the front foot. You're smarter than a lot of people out there. So don't undervalue yourself. That's the professional thing. And keep upskilling and reskilling. People don't upskill or reskill in this part of the world.
Awesome. Thank you so much for being on this podcast. You talked about so many different topics, and it was great having you on just to go through optimizing LinkedIn and your personal experiences.
You're welcome. And I'm sure I was able to help few of your audience and people who are going to watch this podcast later on. I think coming to a new country is perhaps one of the biggest risks that one can take. Keep adding value, and that's the only way you can grow. Otherwise, things would be very difficult. With that, thank you very
Awesome.
much.